I mentioned I was going to tell you that little story about Donald Trump. I talked to him once about Hillary Clinton and said, hey, why didn't you go after her? Why didn't you pursue that? And he had come to the conclusion it sort of like wasn't really what we were about. He kind of wanted to just move forward. He wanted to fix the economy. He had so many policy ideas he wanted to get forward. And he didn't want to actually, as much as, he carried on about not liking her, he felt like that wasn't the right place for America to be. So, I mention that story now because I'm giving him credit for having the foresight to understand that, to know that. And yet the other side, well, they're so willing to go after him. And it's really, frankly, kind of disgusting. So we learned today, of course, we are for sale. That is what the transcript effectively is telling us. When you look at what Devon Archer said, there are two lawmakers behind closed doors. I went through the transcript, read through every page. One of the things that struck me, I'm bringing this to you right now, is the pressure effectively that people felt that they were under, both from a legal perspective and also the sort of influence perspective that the Biden family offered. In fact, this came up in the conversation, and lawmakers said to Devon Archer, forgive me, what exactly was this pressure? And Archer said in response, it's government pressure on there, government pressure from Ukrainian government investigations into Mykola, etc. So in this particular case, they're referring to that $83,000 job. Actually, it was more than that because Devon Archer had one too. So the two guys, Hunter Biden and his pal, they've got these deals with Burisma for $83,000 a month. $83,000 a month, and they're basically going to help yield some influence in Washington, D.C. Burisma was hiring, as these lawmakers continued to press him on and ask him about the hiring him because they wanted this access. They wanted that pressure. So it went on to say, in the quote from the representative, when you say pressure from the government, at this time were you aware that Victor Shokin was investigating Burisma? Remember, that was the guy that was doing the investigation. That was the guy that Joe Biden got fired. And Hunter's associate said, well, to the best, I vaguely, whether it was Shokin, I remember that there was this pressure. There were several pressure issues and that kind of theme going on in Burisma. He also talked about when his father, when Hunter's father came to town, Hunter made it very explicit that they needed to effectively milk that, right? To take the credit for that. So it still calls a whole lot of things into question. He said that roughly 20 times Hunter Biden's dad, Joe, would call in and say hi to the clients at a dinner. The question then becomes, is that in fact criminal? Were they really and truly in a very intentional way selling this access? I think it's indisputable that that's exactly what Hunter was doing. But does Joe have this sort of plausible deniability? I'll say, who was onto this way back when? Who was onto it? It was none other than Donald Trump. Let's go back to the 2020 debates. Here he is with Chris Wallace and Joe Biden mentioning the 83,000. I think he said 183, but it was 83,000 times two, right? Because it went to Hunter Biden's partner as well. Listen.
It's an open discussion, please.
Now, it's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr. President, let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who? The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank, by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
Oh, yeah. Everybody discredited. I mean, that was the sort of fashionable thing to do, right? You get those 51X spies. Bunch of hacks that came out with this is nothing but misinformation, just misinformation, when it turned out, no, actually, in fact, Hunter Biden was the subject of an FBI and IRS investigation. I mean, they just lied to us. They lied to us. This is what politicians do. They lie to us, which is why it's kind of ironic that somehow the whole idea is the DOJ is going to go after Trump because they're saying he knew he lost the election, yet he went forward with all of this stuff anyway, much like clearly Hillary Clinton would have done, as we just explained. Anyway, he's lying. I mean, like, I can't, I'm saying that as someone who obviously has an opinion and a bias in all of this, but I look at it just as an individual and say, how am I supposed to believe Joe Biden at all when he continued to tell us, like, he trusts his son, he believes in his son did nothing wrong. Here he is again, speaking with the reporter over on HBO on Access.
To serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges, you were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody...
Well, you've had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't
pass. Hey, I trust my son. Who doesn't trust Hunter Biden? The guy who took up with, sadly, the widow of his deceased brother. Who doesn't trust the guy who was addicted to drugs and had all kinds of indiscretions, etc. And by the way, originally it came to the IRS's attention and the FBI's attention because he was somehow involved in this amateur porn ring. I mean, it's just kind of mind-blowing stuff. And yet, the president wants us to believe that he's a trustworthy guy and he trusts his son. Anyway, here is Dan Goldman, the representative from New York. We keep seeing all of these representatives come out, defend, along with the ladies at The View and a few other lawmakers. Anyway, here's Dan Goldman saying, hey, nothing wrong here. And then, he's just talking to his son.
Said that he has never spoken to anyone. He said that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. If he says hello to someone that he sees his son with, is he supposed to say, hi, son? Oh, no, I'm not going to say hello to the other people at the table or the other people on the phone. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people that the son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is.
All the evidence. I mean, they're just talking. They're just, good friends. I love this meme. One of my friends sent it over to me. Take a look at it right here. You get Joe saying, put them on the phone. I just want to talk to them about the weather. And his son says, you want to talk about the weather? And then the president comes back with, whether they got the effing money or not. Whether they got the effing money or not. You see, that is referring, of course, to that infamous text that was apparently sent from Delaware when he was visiting his dad. And he sent this text out, kind of a smoking gun. I've shown it to you many, many times. You see him saying to his associate over in China that he's working with, a guy who, by the way, was very friendly with the head of Intel there in China. And he's saying to him, hey, you better have that money here, or the guy in the room next door to me, along with me, we're going to make sure that every single person he knows, along with my ability to forever hold a grudge, we're going to make sure that, your life is effectively ruined. It was kind of Sopranos-esque. And so that's sort of where the meme is coming from, whether they got the what money. They wanted $100,000, and $100,000 had to get into that account ASAP. I say that, but it was Hunter, and he was using his father as a kind of leverage. And so what we got to get at is how much was the father involved. Shifting gears right now. Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.